saying stuff that they've been probably cooking up for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
This crew is so passionate about Phineas and Ferb. Dan thinks about Phineas and Ferb a lot. It's never really left his limelight. He's done Milo, he's done Hamster, which all exist in the same universe. He's never really stopped doing Phineas and Ferb stuff, or at least not for very long.
Yeah.
So his whole TikTok has for the last 5 years has just been talking about Phineas and Ferb and
100%.
breaking stuff down and talking about it. So like I bet he's had a journal of like, hey, if I ever do it again, there's all the things I do about. And also he's very insightful. And it's not just Dan, it's also Swampy. Like I feel like Dan gets like all the credit. It's Swampy too, like both of them. They are very online and they're listening to what everyone is saying. And I think the whole like Suit Candace episode is 100% one of just listening to the fans, because that's one of the most like clippable moments from the whole run of the show, where people talking about like, yeah, Buford has like a suit of all of his friends, and that's a joke that gets passed around in the fandom a lot. So I bet they're like consistently seeing that and being like, okay, let's expand on that joke that we made like 10 years ago. Like what does he do with those suits, and like what crazy idea can we have with it? And I think like in that example, it's so much fun. Like, let's put Mom in the suit so this universe doesn't think it's actually her and she can see what's going on. Like that's a great episode. Like that's a great episode pitch. So I'm excited to see what the final episodes do. We have at least 30 more episodes coming in this season, and also the upcoming season 6. So a lot more Phineas and Ferb to come, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. That being said, we're moving on to our second show. We are an hour in, so I'm sorry that took so long, but I definitely had fun talking about that. We have Ironheart, the newest MCU series, the final project in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 5. A show I've been very excited to come out. We've been waiting like a century for the show to come out.
Yeah, we had previously kind of talked about this. This show has been in like not necessarily development purgatory, but release purgatory. Like it's seemingly been done for
a while,
a couple years now. Like we've heard about this show for what I remember seeing like set photos and stuff like this maybe 3-4 years.
It was announced
4 years
back
ago,
in
like
2019, I think.
Okay,
and
so yeah, it's been an idea for a while.
It has, and like people at like a con back in 2022 saw a whole trailer for it. Like they saw footage and they're like, "Hey, this thing looks really good. Can we see it at any point in time?" And it's definitely very much confused me what the delays have been. Why haven't we been able to see it? And I had a couple theories over the years. I for a while I was thinking it was like Young Avengers stuff, because she's a character that I always assumed would be under your like Young Avengers banner, and I was like, oh, they're waiting for like Agatha to come out and blah blah blah, and Agatha didn't really have any connections on that side of things, so I was like, okay, and I have some theories, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later to what we'll see and stuff like that. But let's just go into like general thoughts. Taz, how are you feeling on this show? I mean, you comparatively to us, I assume you have less of a history with Ironheart because you have not seen Black Panther 2.
No. I mean, the only thing I really know about the character, which is funny enough, different, I think, for most people, is the character in the comics. Like, I didn't necessarily read any comics, but I, learned about this character, kind of when she first made headlines. And, the big thing that I knew was the Tony Stark AI in the comics, right? Which you kind of drew parallels to, obviously, the AI that they create for the show that, I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. But that was pretty much the big thing that I knew, is like, okay, hey, young kid, very, very smart, can make her own kind of Iron Man armor, wants to, in some ways, take up the mantle, or, show that the mantle can be taken in a different way, which I think is an interesting concept. However, we're so, not necessarily so far removed, but I feel like we're almost past that era of like, oh, we need a Tony Stark successor. Like, I feel like we've gone through this whole, couple phases now of movies post-Endgame where, we had that story with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, oh, how do I live up to my mentor? We've had that now with like, okay, how do we create new Avengers teams to live up to this? You know, we even get a little bit of that, like again, the Fallout kind of, how does it affect not just like the global cosmic stuff, but how does it affect
Mm,
the street level stuff? Like even, you know, you can feel some of the fallout in, you know, like Hawkeye and things like that. Like so there's elements of it, you know, throughout the now post Endgame MCU, and this feels like a project that should have come out like very quickly after Endgame. However, it's kind of sat there again in that kind of non-release purgatory for a few years. So I think maybe the biggest issue that a lot of people have is that it feels somewhat out of place within the timeline. Like, what does this have to do with all the multiversal stuff? And there is a
sure.
small little element, and this is probably my favorite element of the show, is the kind of mystical, magical side of things with
Hmm.
the hood, and, you know, I'm just going to come out and say it, most likely Mephisto that we've been
Yeah.
speculating on since WandaVision. And I think that was my big draw is I was like,
Yeah.
are they really going to do the thing? And episode 2, episode 3 really, I'm like,
Whew.
oh,
Yeah.
they're
Well,
doing
like,
they're doing that.
that was always my favorite pitch of the show. Like, this show was always pitched as it's going to be technology versus magic and like
Right.
supernatural, and what are the similarities to it, and how do they differ, and how can technology like fight the like supernatural? Like that stuff is really very interesting to me, and I feel like the MCU has never really dived into the supernatural side. I think on like a big scale. We've like
Yeah.
dipped our toes in with like Doctor Strange and
Right.
Agatha, but I
And we've
feel
kind of
like
gotten that little explanation of like, oh, magic is just science we can't explain yet, and that sort of thing.
it's yeah, and I feel like with these first couple episodes, it's the most like supernaturally I feel like the MCU has really felt for me. I guess outside of like Agatha, I guess would be the like
Hmm.
next big thing. Um,
And I
but
think
like
this
it,
is maybe as good a time as ever. Is I messaged you kind of right when I was in the middle of my watch through. I was like, this really reminds me of sort of like the
Runaways,
Runaways
yeah,
slash Cloak and Dagger Marvel
yeah,
era in a lot of ways. Like it doesn't feel very similar to a lot of the other Disney Plus shows. Like it's not like Moon Knight, it's not like Hawkeye, it's
mm,
definitely not like Daredevil, it's not like WandaVision and Agatha outside of the little magic connection. Like it really does feel unique in its own way, which is a really good thing. And I think that that will separate it from a lot of other MCU projects and a lot of other just Marvel projects in general. Um, but I feel like they really need to lean even more so heavily into that unique identity
mm,
for the back half of the season for it to really stand out and stand apart. Because, you know, like you said at the beginning, this character was established in Black Panther 2. I have not seen Black Panther 2 yet,
yeah.
but I don't necessarily feel the need to go see that to get a feel for this character. I think we learn everything we need
They've done a
to
good job. Yeah,
about this character. And they do have a little bit of an era of mystery. I mean, you know, for a little bit, I was like, are they going to really go down a path of like, did she kill her dad and her best friend or something like that? Like, I thought that that was kind of why she was feeling guilty, but no, it's like, it's fairly simple explanation as far as that goes. But yeah, there were a lot of elements that I actually ended up very much so enjoying, but also I do have
mm-hmm.
I won't say quite a few nitpicks, but I do have some problems with the show as well. I think some of them are popular issues to have,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe some of them are not so popular issues.
I,
Where
I
are you standing?
I'm really enjoying the show. I really enjoyed these first three episodes. I wouldn't say I'm like in love with the show. I'm not like I haven't come out and I'm like this is the best thing I've ever seen. I think
Yeah.
I came out with it. I was like, hey, that was pretty good. I really
Yeah, I'm
enjoyed
like, hey,
that.
this is. It sounds bad, but I'm like, yeah, that's passable.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, because
It's
there's
like
been so many other things that I'm like, like I'm not
it's
feeling
good.
it.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's really good. I think my issue is more on the outside of it. I'm just being like, I think you said it like doesn't feel like the other MCU shows, and I agree in style, but but I think in
Yes.
formula it still is for me, and it's still suffering from the same issues that
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of those
You're right.
that 6 episode event thing that's really frustrating to me, especially
Yeah.
in episode 3. I think episode 1 and episode 2 is a really good like build up. It's a good first
100%.
one. It's building
Good
up to
first
something really
drop.
cool.
They should not
Yes.
have done episode 3 immediately. You're right. Let's talk about that right now because I don't like that at all. The fact that we got 3 episodes and then the show is over next week with another 3. Like, where's the suspense? Where is the let's talk about it a little bit more? Like, I remember, when I first came back onto the show and like you and Darth were having a lot of fun talking about Agatha week over week over week. Like, that's how a show should drop. Like, to keep the conversation going. Like, imagine
it's like 8 weeks.
The speculation.
Great.
Imagine the speculation that could have been had between, episodes 2 and episode 3.
Yeah.
Like, they give you a little bit of taste of that magical Mephisto connection, but we just skip right over that. And there's no real era of mystery. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. The Hood made a deal with the devil, literally.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there's going to be lots of things we're just not going to touch on in this episode because we don't have the time. There's just so much of the big stuff we have to cover, not being able to cover the little stuff. And I think that's my thing, where it's like, I think all these episodes are good. I think there needed to be another episode, maybe even 2 episodes in between episode 3. Because episode 3 does feel like a mid-season point where the whole show starts to shift. And I think some of it's not quite earned for me.
They did speedrun it.
The stuff that's there is great. But I feel like her really trying to get out of like the Hood's clutches this early. I feel like her like betraying the team and like him finding out like, Riri, she did this. It's like that would hit harder if she's actually been a part of the team a bit longer, because like,
it's
I
like
want
we
that to
just
feel like
started
a
to
betrayal.
learn. Yeah,
Right.
it's like it was, and okay, I think also here's my other big thing too. Let me know if I'm crazy for saying this, but I don't think Riri's very likable.
That's interesting.
Like, I think it's tough to connect with her because for all intents and purposes she's acting like a villain.
That's interesting for me.
And it was further solidified in this in episode 3. But go tell me your perspective on this, and then I'll kind of...
I like Riri a lot. I think she's a very fun character. But I think they're definitely having a lot of fun with the like morality of her as a character, and like also I think she's also struggling with that though, because she knows what she's doing is wrong, and she doesn't like the her that she's turning into. I think that's very interesting. But also I think there's been like from the show coming out, I think there's now a bigger conversation about the like morality of a lot of characters in the MCU, and like there's been a lot of comparisons to her and Tony Stark, obviously, and like I think it's very interesting for people to be like, oh man, I can't believe she's ruining Tony Stark's like legacy. Tony Stark blatantly murdered people in like the first half of his movie. He sold war weapons to like, outside sources. Like Tony Stark starts as a horrible man, right? He's not a good guy. And I feel like we kind of find that with a lot of our MCU characters are like active killers and murderers and not good people.
In a different way though. Like, think about it in the perspective of like, the Punisher is a vigilante murderer. He kills bad guys, cool. But, like, he's a soldier as well, right? So that's that aspect of it. Iron Man, yes, definitely not a soldier, but he was in a war zone. And those were the people he killed. He wasn't killing his, like, street-level villains. You know?
I feel like... yeah. Go
like,
ahead,
I know it's... Yes, there's a little bit of a disconnect, but it's almost like the difference between, like, I'm trying to think how to compare it, right? Is think about horrible comparison, but Superman killing Zod at the end of Man of Steel, right? Like, he did that not because he's a killer, but he did that because it was a time of war and he had to do what must be done. You know what I mean? Iron Man did the same thing. He was captured by, captured in a foreign land in a war zone and had to do whatever he could to get out of said situation. It was life or death. However, in this scenario we see with Riri, right? Like she's super genius, went to college at such a young age, did all of these like, great things, super smart, has access to all of these resources. Yet she wants more than she has access to.
Hmm.
Gets herself kicked out of school, joins a criminal heist group, and then ends up killing a guy, quote, kind of. Was he innocent? No. But did he have to die? Did she have to
I
not save him
I'd
in order to
argue
save herself?
I'd argue that was self-defense. I argue if she did not do that, he would have killed her. So I have no skin off my back being like, oh yeah, that's what she needed to do in that situation. But I definitely think it's a very interesting conversation about
Yeah.
the like
The
morality
morality.
of what
Yeah.
she's doing. I think is very interesting because she is a character. Like there's a big conversation right now about there's a comment about Tony at the start of the show. People are freaking out about. I don't know how much you've seen about like Tony Stark had resources and I don't kind of thing.
And my response to that is Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
I think that's such a stupid thing people are freaking out about. I really do. I think Riri is 100% right in that. I think she's 100% right that Tony had resources and she doesn't. And I think people freaking out about that is very silly. Yes, he did build that in a cave with a box of scraps. But it wasn't a good, like, it's not like it's a great suit.
No,
like it's
no.
still,
he did not. Yeah, he didn't get to build his full on suit until he got home and got his resources.
Yes, and it's like Tony Stark couldn't do 99.9% of the things he does in the MCU without his resources. And I think people like freaking out the way they are is very silly because I don't think that's a diss on Tony Stark. Like people are acting like she hates Tony. Oh my god. And it's like no, she looks up to Tony. Like she loves Tony.
And we got the insight. Okay, well here's one of my favorite parts, right? It is the Obadiah Stane connection with Alden Ehrenreich's character.
Yeah.
Being Stane's son and kind of that moral dilemma of like, okay, he saw his father go down this very, very dark path, literally become a supervillain, doesn't want to do that, but he's still somewhat involved in like kind of the shady black market, not arms dealing, but technology dealing. He sees that Riri is potentially going down a very similar path and is warning her about it.
Yeah.
We get a little bit more of Riri's background to kind of a full just sort of explanation. Yeah, hey, her stepfather, her best friend got killed in this just, horrible situation. And it seems like without her saying it, she's making this suit to, make sure that this doesn't happen again. I think that is really her motivation. Right. And she keeps saying, oh, I did it because I could. But like, I think she felt powerless. Yeah. She felt powerless in that scenario. So she now wants to feel powerful. Her stepfather looked up to Iron Man. Okay, she's smart. She has access to some tech. So let's make our own version of Iron Man and, honor her stepfather's legacy while also trying to protect people. But I think she's kind of lost her way on that road to being a hero. And again, that's what Alden Ehrenreich's character said is like, you don't want to go down that villainous path. And like, obviously he will not help her go down that path. And I think having that pull to the light there with his character, with the Natalie AI, with her mom, will keep her on the right path. But just setting up things in those first 3 episodes, she just makes bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and it doesn't fully sit right with me. Like, obviously I know we're going to end her off in the right spot. Like, she's going to become the hero that she should be. But how does she earn that in 3 episodes? How does she undo all of the bad she just did in these first 3 episodes in another 3 episodes?
Well, that's another conversation in general where it shouldn't be 3 episodes, right? Like, this show, I already can tell, needs more time to cook, and like again,
it should have been at least 10.
I think I don't necessarily think she needs a big redemption right now outside of the like final bits of the episode. And like I again, like I think it'd be different if she doesn't know it's bad, right? If she's just doing this stuff and they're writing it off as if it's good, I could be like, okay, I agree with you. But I think like literally like having the like episode literally end her being like, oh god, what did I do? Oh my god, oh no no no, like I think like that was such a palpable scene. So it's not like she's just doing this stuff and you know she doesn't know what's wrong and they're trying to like justify these actions. It's like, no, she knows she's messing up. She knows she's not a perfect character and she's trying to like rationalize these ideas and these decisions in a very interesting way. And I think it's very interesting the audience kind of like hating her for that in an interesting way, because I don't think there's anything Riri could do that would make them like her in that sense, because if she was this like morally good character and this super like great character, people will be like, oh, she's this Mary Sue that can't do anything wrong, like how dare they. So it's like we're giving her flaws, we're giving her things to work towards, and they hate that too. And it's like I don't know if there's pleasing that audience.
Yeah, I mean there's a balance to be had, right? There's a balance to be had between those two parts, and I think they are very much so walking that very fine line. And yes, it's a big aspect in the, you know, she's good at heart column when she is questioning the leadership there. She's questioning the hood and questioning, hey, why are we doing these things? You know, what kind of heist crew are we? Like, do we really need to go to these lengths to get what we came here for? But at the end of the day, you know, she joined this criminal organization of her own free will, in order to get more money for resources for building her suits. When also now too that she's friends with Stain's son, like now she's kind of got access to all these resources outside of this, you know, this criminal crew, right? Like, so she doesn't even technically didn't really need them anymore. But obviously now she's staying in to get to the bottom of this whole hood mess. But has she created her own villain? Like a lot of these heroes do.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But has she created her own villain in that regard now?
With who? Hood?
Yeah. Yeah, like obviously he was going off the rails, but her attachment to the crew helped them finish that first heist, which drew him then further down the rabbit hole, and then now her choosing not to save what's his name, John?
Yeah, whatever the heck his name.
Yeah, I think it was John.
The brother, cousin, I can't remember.
Right.
Choosing not
the
choosing
guy
not to
that
save...
has a personal relationship with the other guy, so it makes more stakes.
Yeah.
It has more stakes.
Yeah, so her killing him, choosing not to save him, or I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you kind of thing, that has fully transitioned him down the dark side.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He is all fully now that Mephisto has shown him the truth, too. He is fully embracing the dark side. And also, Darren, I don't know if you caught this, one of the, like, creepy voiceovers was like, what do you most desire? And I was like, ooh, Lucifer. Tell me, what is it that you desire?
I definitely think you're onto something though, and I feel like most of the good villains like can point out the like flaws in your hero and can point out what they've done, and like I do think like anything going forward is on her. It is on her as a character. I think that's very fascinating. I want to read this comment. Serenity, thank you so much for giving your input. I guess she can't be too flawed. All she needs to do is take down the hood, decide to be Ironheart to end the series. Everything else is future appearance. I will be interesting if like Champion/Young Avengers does happen, because I feel like her development, like I feel like there's like a big complaint among some people, which I don't necessarily agree with, but like all the like Young Avengers kind of feel the same in terms of like personality. I feel like she does feel very different, and I feel like if we do get that project with Miss Marvel, with like Kate Bishop, with the Agatha, twins and stuff like that. Like I feel like she will bounce off very well, and I feel like that will allow her to have a better dynamic. I feel like that crew will have a different kind of feel with her involved, which I think would help.
I feel like they are fairly different enough to
I
all feel unique.
agree.
Like I do, and especially depending on how we leave off Billy and Tommy post Vision Quest, like that's going to be very interesting. And also it's going to be interesting to see if there's a continuation of those magical ties into that as well. Like maybe that's why Ironheart didn't come out until now. Like you said, is maybe it had to come out post Agatha, or it had to come out post WandaVision, had to come out post Agatha, but had to come out pre Vision Quest. And I know Vision Quest got kind of swapped around a little bit as well.
Well, like that would actually be a very interesting dynamic if that show does happen. Like, I think Ironheart's probably going to be very anti-magic going forward after his, after this thing. And if like Billy is over here, doing all his like sorceress things and throwing things around, she might be like, no, I've had enough with magic. Stay away from me. I don't want any part of that. But also, I feel like they can relate to each other very well because Billy is also a very similar character with a very problematic past.
Yes,
like he killed a boy, like he took a boy's life to save his own. So it's like I feel like that didn't get a lot of those criticisms of like Billy's evil. Kind of
no,
things.
Billy did some shady stuff during Agatha as well.
You guys were talking before about the morality of the character, and just hopping around talking about what I think about these first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
I would disagree with when you mentioned that the third episode maybe they should have waited another week to drop it. But I think everything in relation to Ironheart as a show, it just feels like they have to release it before anything big makes you forget about it, because even if I'm still catching up with Andor, but that show, it had a 3 episode drop. They had more episode, but it was big. Like it made it a big deal every night, and maybe it's probably the opposite with here. Like they didn't really push the Ironheart show with the marketing. Like they have a bunch of stuff, but when everyone is thinking about, oh, Fantastic Four and Superman are coming up this summer, they are not really thinking about Ironheart. They probably didn't want the show's popularity to be buried behind those big movies coming out. So maybe that's why they did this. And I don't hate them and don't blame them for that, because when I finished episode 3, I really wanted to watch episode 4, and I did not feel that when I watched episode 1 or 2. Maybe we could still, we of course talking about it in the live stream just about episode 1 and 2, but the probably show that can compare it to is one of my favorites, because I have the poster right there. It's Miss Marvel. I'm a huge Miss Marvel fan, but I don't think the show really lived up to the expectation that I had, because weekly didn't feel that strong. And it's hilarious because us Arrowverse fans always say that. They do feel like shows, like it's a coming of age kind of not huge budget show. You could do more episodes, you could do more season. Like even if you love or hate the Miss Marvel show, it does feel like a character that deserves a multiple season show. And same with Ironheart, I'd say.
Agree. Yeah, no, like I'm very like, it is very frustrating knowing that the whole thing is done by next week to me. And like, I definitely do agree with you to a certain extent that I do think these three do work well together as a unit. Like I'm definitely not displaying that. I do think, especially in terms of getting you invested, I could be like, okay, yeah, I understand if you want to drop the first 3 at once, but then only having next week be it is a little frustrating to me. Like if they did 3 this week and then they did 4, 5, and 6 being separate weeks, I think I'd be like, okay, it's a 4-week show, that would work better. But you are 100% right about the Fantastic Four thing, is that they wanted to get this out before Fantastic Four, and like this year it's just this unavoidable thing that they had 6 shows to get out this year, and 3 movies to get out this year, which means almost every single month there is a different project coming out. And it's to get it all out this year, and then next year we are starting fresh with all new stuff, all Bob Iger stuff. We are starting completely fresh, which I am.
You guys mentioned it before. Like I think there's an episode of What If season 3 where the Hood shows up. Not the same character, but someone else is wearing the hood. And there's also an episode with Ironheart, like Riri shows up with a full advanced suit. That feels like Ironheart should have come out before those What Ifs episode, because in Wakanda
100%.
Forever, I don't think you get a full expand of the character, and you definitely do not see anything related to the hood, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Ideally, this should have come out in 2023. Ideally, like, we would not be running into this issue, or even 2024 would actually have been perfect, because that was a slow year for like Marvel. Like there was only 2
Agatha.
like Agatha was the only proper MCU. Agatha and Echo were the only actual MCU 616 projects to come out. Everything else was Sony or some like animated project, or Deadpool came out, but that wasn't even technically MCU. Like, it's MCU adjacent, but it was on a whole other Earth. So I would have thrown that last year, unless there was something that they needed to wait for. Like I said, me and Taz were talking about it previously. I think there's I don't think it will happen, but I think there's like a 1% chance that there's some kind of setup for Doomsday. That there's some little itty bitty thing at the end. They've been really pushing this this Downey marketing. He's been in a couple teasers and trailers now in terms of like him jumping on a phone and being like, "Hey guys, kind of like go watch the show."
Yeah, kind of giving his blessing for the show and everything like that. As much as I'm like, oh, that would be such a big get to have him in there. Wouldn't that be such a great little addition to his contract? Is like, hey, you're coming back as Victor Von Doom in Doomsday and Secret Wars, but we need you to do one little final Tony Stark
even
thing.
If it's not him, like it doesn't even have to be Downey himself. It could just be something like leading to it, like
or
even
like
if it's just a mask,
or maybe if it's just a voiceover. Even like maybe it's not like actually like RDJ as the AI, but it's like an Iron Man mask with RDJ's voice. And it sounds like, Jarvis-esque, like just a little thing.
Or what it could also be, which I've been thinking about lately, it could also be set up for a Vision Quest. Because Vision Quest is all about AI. That is the entire presence
Ultron
of that show.
is back.
I actually would not be shocked if Riri had some kind of appearance in that show, right?
Yeah.
It actually would make a lot of sense if you're setting up this story about like AI, which we will talk about in a second, because I definitely want to talk about that whole side of things. It would not be shocked if like we're kind of bringing this stuff like to the surface a lot, and I assume also Doomsday will have stuff with AI, like with his Doom bots and stuff like that. Like that is a thing. Like that. Like there are some
connective threads. Yeah.
That you can
and for what I've seen, everything related to Vision Quest, like every Vision or Iron Man related character is coming back for that show, or even introducing new ones from what I've seen in the news.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I do kind of want to add, just like, not really sure where else to slot these in. Two big compliments, I guess, to my compliment sandwich. Ooh. Number one, I like the title cards a lot.
Agreed.
I think the title cards are great. I think, again, that adds to the unique vision, and no pun intended, unique vision. And, just kind of the presentation of this show being slightly different than we're used to. Number two, one of the biggest things that I've been asking for years, more practical suits and set design. And I think, again, it's very well made, actually. Like, the CGI that we get, very good for a TV show. Just simple things with Riri getting in and out of the suit as a physical thing, rather than it just like nanoteching onto her. It actually looks like she's in a real legitimate, like, big clunky hulking metal suit.
Which I prefer. I always prefer the more
Yeah.
practical stuff, and I think that's a good job of also showing how much behind she is from Tony, right?
Yeah.
Because Tony spent several years. I'm actually totally fine with like Tony having the like nanotech. Like out of all of the characters, he is one
Right,
that
like
makes sense.
he can have it.
Yeah.
Just the only thing is I wish it looked better. Like if you go back and you
Agreed.
look at
Yeah.
the OG Iron Man movie from, 2008, like I think those suits in a lot of ways look better than like Avengers Endgame suits.
I love his slow build outs, like that scene in Iron Man 3 when like all the pieces are coming onto him and he's doing flips and he's letting it come onto him. Same the like whiplash fight scene in like Iron Man 2 where it's just like it's like slowly going down. Like that is so sick. And I 100% agree. Like I got that hype feeling when she's like there's those scenes where like she's landing and she just like hops out of the
she literally just flies into the to the area with everybody and just like casually just like jumps out of the suit like, yep, all right guys, it's go time. Or when
I think that's the whole I think that's the whole point, that you have to make the mix between practical and digital effects very good, because
it's gotta be seamless.
Otherwise it just looks like the floating head and it's just the CGI suit right there.
Yeah, which again is my biggest critique of more so current day Iron Man from Infinity War Endgame. Like again, does it take you out of the moment when you're watching it on a big screen in the middle of the theater? No, not really. But when you're looking back, like you scrub through trailers or you pull high quality screenshots, that sort of thing, you're like, oh, this looks a little off.
And it's even worse. Like Iron Man, I'm ultimately okay with. Like, yes, it looks a little iffy at times, but like that's fine. But like when you have like Thor having like nanotech, it's
and
like, man,
Spider-Man, dude. Oh,
it's
my
like
gosh.
we gotta move. Like I can get like even like Captain America's like Sam's Captain America, I can get because he does have the like Wakandan like tech. And I was like, okay, I can understand that side of it, but I still prefer if he had like an actual cowl and he
well, that's why again, still I still think that the Black Panther design from Civil War was better than the Black Panther design in the movies because it was more practical.
I like the practical
like in his solo films. Yeah, it was more practical.
Like Black Panther makes sense why he would have one. Like I 100% get that, but you're 100% right. I like people being able to take off their actual helmets and be able to set it down. Like it feels more tangible, it feels more real.
And you can especially see the difference with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, because I always remember the scene when he's jumping around and he loses the powers. It's a fully CGI Spider-Man during Spider-Man 2, and he falls into the alley and he immediately takes his mask off and you see the actor, the real guy right there. But then in No Way Home, as much fun that movie is, you see the behind the scenes and they're just doing this. They have fully CGI mask, which looks a bit odd. Like you're gonna attribute that to maybe No Way Home not being like the best like piece of cinematic media. I definitely feel like a pandemic green screen shot movie was probably the thing I disliked the most about a movie I otherwise really enjoy.
Yeah, and I feel like we're getting away from it a little bit, at least in these last several projects. Like I think you had Deadpool 3, which is like such a satisfying moment. Yes, it wasn't practical, but like when like Logan's coming up and he's pulling the mask down, that was very cool. Daredevil was obviously very awesome, where you have like those physical suits that they have to put on. Thunderbolts is the same exact way.
Even in Born Again, though, there were much more CGI elements than you would get in the earlier seasons of Daredevil, which, again, obviously it's the change of the times, change of it being an actual, MCU project. But I miss physical, practical media and effects and all of that. Like, I know it makes me sound like a, stuck-up cinema buff, right? Like, oh, it needs to be color graded and,
I think there's a
done
time
all
and a
this
place.
properly, right? There is a time and a place, and yes, obviously, Marvel. It's got like, I think the Marvel shine is the best way to put it, right? That a lot of these things have over it, which again I think is one of the good elements that this has going for it. Like it's kind of like this techno hip hoppy vibe, with again practical like gritty sort of suits and stuff like that to kind of show, okay, this is early in her career or early in her path to becoming a hero. I'm sure the suits are going to get more streamlined. They're going to get sleeker and, slimmer and, be a little bit more, stealthy and that sort of thing. But I do like the themes and the tone that they're presenting and telling through the set design and the costuming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's good storytelling because she does get this like very handed to her maybe by Shuri fully CGI suit in Wakanda Forever, but she doesn't get this here. She has to build her own, and it makes you care about every single episode. She's going to have to find a way to get money to repair the suit. The suit get beaten up. It's all clunky and it's real. It feels tangible. So I really enjoy that because you get to see how she works on it in every single episode. It's not like she gets handed the suit and she becomes the character right away.
Right. Yeah, no, like it's definitely like I think like there is a really interesting narrative about privilege like in the MCU, like especially if you like look at those OG heroes where it's like yes, a lot of those original Avengers, while they worked very hard to get to where they were, a lot of it was kind of like handed to them, right? Like Bruce Banner happened by accident, he got his abilities. Steve Rogers worked very, very, very hard, but ultimately someone kind of approached him like, hey man, you want this serum? He's like, yeah, sure. Tony, he works very, very, very hard. What she said is not a diss on Tony Stark, but he was born into riches. He had one of the smartest dads in the world that he passed on to him, his smarts and his resources, and despite him having to work for it, yeah, like that's something that he was kind of just born with. And I do think it's definitely a very interesting perspective to be like, okay, what is it like being a hero when you don't have the resources that other heroes may have? Like I think that's very, very fascinating.
I really like how what that really represents, because it's not like she, like for example Miss Marvel, is a really big Iron Man fan. She's a very stoic and kind of rude character, but she just went to the same college that Tony Stark went. He gave away a budget to everyone's project during Civil War. She didn't even got that, and she just built. It just feels like she built an Iron Man suit, or a suit that looks like an Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Just so people would care about what she was doing.
I like that too. Yeah. I really like that. Like we now live in a world that's so obsessed with Iron Man as this thing, and
that's what she said. Why you build it? Because I could, because I can do the same as this guy did.
Yeah, like that's so interesting to me of just it being like, I could have solved cancer, but no one would have cared unless I have this shiny suit or I have these superpowers, and I think it's going to be very interesting kind of going into like Doomsday and stuff, where it's like, yeah, we have so many new heroes now. We have so many of these kind of new people kind of coming into the fray, and how does she stand out? And I think Taz, you're like definitely onto something where it's like, it's that, and also it's like this is her literal protection, her like mental protection. Like I'm building this for nothing else can happen to me or anyone I love again. And I think that stuff is my favorite stuff of the show so far, is this story about grief that I think is very fascinating that we're doing right
especially now. Coming off with no spoilers from Thunderbolts, because that's a movie that also focuses a lot on mental health, and I very much like how they always everyone around her wants her to be okay, and she constantly says, "I'm okay. I just built this thing because I really wanted to," and she's constantly ignoring the grief and what really motivates what she's doing.
And I think even if subconsciously, yes, she knows exactly why she made the suit and everything, I think it's gonna take a big realization to be like, oh, like this is actually my purpose. Like this is why I need to go down a different path, why I need to become the hero that everybody knows I can be and thinks I can be. And I do also think as well, it's a very, very odd, interesting at the same time oversight that as much as she's trying to hide, she's also very open with a lot of things. Like she's just flying around the city. Like she's not really trying a lot to hide her identity or anything like that. So what happens when there's news reports,
I was thinking
giant iron suit involved in, third criminal heist of the month. Like,
I was thinking like, wait, is that Is that Riri?
Right, and
I
how do
call
you
her...
right, and then how do you spin that like, oh no, I was undercover. I was trying to
Yeah.
stop these
Someone
people. Like,
stole my suit, actually. I haven't had it for a couple
yeah, and
weeks.
it's just like,
Which, like,
oh,
I was expecting, like, when it happens, like, okay, maybe she's going to have some kind of, like, cloaking technology or something where she's, you know, going more undercover, or maybe she makes it look different than her suit, and she could be like, yeah, that was Rhodey, man. That wasn't me. I didn't have any part of that.
Yeah, no, she had, full face mask off with a security guard pointing a gun in her face. Like,
but maybe that kind of goes into the narrative that, like, she doesn't quite know what she's doing yet. Like, she is a young girl who is grieving, who is just trying to do whatever to make her dreams come true and to help her feel something again. And I think that goes into it a little bit. And, like, yeah, like, I'm loving the, like, Natalie stuff in the show so far. Like, I know some people said it was, like, their least favorite thing. It's been my favorite thing. And
yeah, I think it's a cool aspect.
It's this kind of story about grief, and I think that kind of goes into, like, the, like, morality of her character a little bit, and, like, I think it is an interesting character about grief of, like, okay, people go through grief very differently, but can you grieve while the person that you're grieving is still there? And is that a sustainable way to deal with your feelings? It's like, you're not dealing with your feelings, actually. You are just covering it up and muting it. And I think also the, like, mom wanting to do the same for her husband. And I think, like,
yeah,
we're in a very...
It's very interesting. No, I kind of draw the comparison, right? So you know how some people will, like, try to, like, clone their pets, right? Is like, like a dog passes away or something like that, and they get, like, a DNA sample. They, I don't know, genetically engineer a similar dog, but it's like, that's kind of like basically what she did, like, subconsciously. Obviously, she didn't intend to do it, but she accidentally made this super smart AI clone of her memory of her friend.
Right, yeah.
Which is insane when you think about it. Obviously, it makes trying to get over something so traumatic like that very tough, very different. Yeah. But I do also think if she can then eventually maybe separate the two of them, like, yes, she looks and sounds and acts like my friend, but she's not. And I think that's what she's trying to tell herself, but she keeps falling back into, like, the, you even saw her, like, catching herself when she said things, or like, when you, not you, but Natalie, you did this thing.
And I think the main theme of the season may ultimately be temptation. I think that's going to be what this main story is, especially if your villain, like a Mephisto, is like preying on your temptations.
Ooh.
She's also doing the same thing where she is falling into that of, like, why do I have to grieve? Why do I have to grieve when I can have my best friend right here? Why do I have to work it, do this stuff the hard way when I can just get the money like this? Like this is like this story is doing a lot with, like,
okay, so our theory time.
Okay.
So she gets the hood. Mephisto's in her mind. You've got Ironheart with the hood on, and it's like, oh, you can have all this that you've ever wanted, and it's like, all the fame and fortune of Tony Stark, have your father and your best friend back to life and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then kind of she's just like, nope, I'm in a Spider-Verse kind of thing. No, I'm gonna do my own thing, and have to actually, like, give up all that power, that sort of thing.
Also, Mephisto feels like a guy that would say, I'm not really the bad guy. You are the one robbing and committed these terrible crimes.
Question, do we ever actually see Mephisto? Or is he just a disembodied voice and a idea, right? Is he all in our heads? You know what I mean? Is like, we've wanted this character for so long, and have wanted him to be behind things for so long, and like,
this is like Ares really, in the Wonder Woman movie, like.
Right? Or is it even really Mephisto? Like, I know we're saying, oh, it's the devil, it's Mephisto, like, this cloak has a mind of its own, that sort of thing. But maybe it's just a cursed, imbued magical object. Like, it's cursed by Mephisto, maybe.
Right.
But, like, maybe the hood is not even really communing with Mephisto. He's just communing with the hood itself. and it's presenting these things to him like Mephisto would, without him physically being present.
Unfortunately, I think that might be the best case scenario, because I don't want to waste him right now, because this is a character that I don't necessarily need.
Interesting.
I'm not like, I need this character, but I know people have been waiting so long, and they set them up in like Agatha, and we're setting them up here, and there are rumors that like one of the main themes of the like next saga, so phase 7, 8, and 9 will be supernatural, and we're going to lean more into that side of things. So maybe he'll be one of the main villains of like our next saga, or a future Doctor Strange, or like a Scarlet Witch project or something. But maybe we're just kind of like planting the seeds where like he is here, but like I also don't want to take away from Hood, because I think the Hood is already such a fun villain. And one of my big things, I need them to really focus in on him, because he's like, his presence is there, but I still know nothing about him. I don't know how he got the Hood, what the Hood can do, his backstory, what his real motivations are, what he wants, what's his game plan. Like, there is so much with just him alone. Like, we could have 3 episodes of just him, and it might not be enough. And I am very nervous. And hopefully we don't kill him off. Hopefully this is a character that can stick around, that can, like, this actor is really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't really want it to be like he's. Yeah, I agree on that one. I don't really want it to be like he gets consumed by the Hood and Mephisto shows up and there's a big CGI battle. I don't want it to be that.
Yeah, I want it to feel very personal, which I already think is maybe kind of out the window a little bit, just because like we haven't had time to set up what I want them to do. Like, again, me and Taz were talking about earlier, like, I want that portrayal in episode 3 from him to feel more meaningful. I want him to feel, she betrayed me. I let her into this group and she killed my best friend. I wish that felt more like impactful. Like, how could she do this? I trusted her. I thought she trusted me too. And again, that's such a good build up. It's like, I don't know if you can make that feel tangible enough for my personal interest, I guess. But maybe, I don't know.
My biggest reservation is, how do they do all of these things in the next 3 episodes, right? Like, we have to have a satisfying hero arc, redemption arc for Riri. We have to have a satisfying conclusion to the Hood/Mephisto arc and how that all overlaps. Satisfying setup for where these characters are going in the future, potential setup for Vision Quest, potential setup for Doomsday. As well as obviously the the aspects of this the side the Young Avengers, the side characters. Where does young Han Solo fit into the rest of all of this? Like, there's a lot of elements that, again, presented very well, but telling me that you only have 3 episodes left. Yes, they're good length episodes. I saw, Darren, you talking about this
they're
before
all like
the show even came out. Is like they're a decent length as far as the episodes go, and I think that that's a really positive thing in their camp. But it just, again, there feels like so many elements that, again, it's going to fall into that same Disney Plus Marvel trap where you have a slow start, the middle of the season kind of maybe stagnates a little bit, and then you've got a really strong end, but you felt like you needed 2, 3, 4 more episodes to really get a full grasp on the story.
I especially felt it with Born Again, when it feels like the show, like the real story of the show starts in season 2, and this is just the setup.
The epilogue, and which may not be as big of a deal if we were actually getting second seasons of these shows. And when we are getting second seasons, it's like
hard-pressed to say that we're going to get a second season of Ironheart. Like, again,
no way
she's going to show up in a bunch of other things. A season 2 of Ironheart might be Young Avengers.
But
I don't think we're going to get a direct continuation.
I think we were. I think the plan originally was going to be Armored Wars. That Rhodey movie that we were supposed to get.
You are 100% right. I keep forgetting that existed.
Because
it doesn't anymore. But
because the whole
they
point
forgot they existed. It existed as well.
That would have been so good too, because the whole point of that show is that like the Iron Man suits are getting into the wrong hands, and like the governments are taking them away and stuff like that. That would have been such a good transition to be like, okay, I need an Iron Man suit to take this on. Where can I get one? There's this girl I've heard about who's making her own. Let me pay her a visit. And like that, like I think that double those two together, I think would have been such a cool movie, especially a movie focusing on like the like secret invasion stuff. I don't like that show whatsoever, but I do think that ending is very interesting. Of just like I've been gone for the last 5 years. What have I missed? How can I process?
Will that ever actually be addressed? The world may never know.
And both of them having that like grief of missing things and missing out, like that could have been so good. And maybe
it already did not got addressed because the Marvels and Secret Invasion came out the same year, and Nick Fury it's in both of those projects, and it feels like a completely different character. Maybe they will not be a very hype project, Armor Wars I'm talking about, but it feels so necessary. Imagine having like now we have the son of Obadiah Stane. Imagine having Sam Rockwell back as Justin Hammer and just tying it up together. Everything now that a lot of people.
Who?
Hopefully,
Justin Hammer.
Sam.
I feel like I saw
nothing
something.
Confirmed.
Yeah, nothing confirmed.
I think they asked him, I think, and he said sure, but nothing's confirmed.
I mean, he did What If you're counting What If. He did What If season 2. I 100% think he was probably supposed to be Armored Wars. I would not have been shocked if he was involved in that show somehow. Ooh, it could have been really cool to be like, hey, enemies of my enemies are, is my friend. You want to team up?
It writes itself, if you think about it.
I wanted that show so bad. I wanted that movie so bad. It's missed opportunity. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? I mean, I guarantee there's so much we haven't talked about.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
But I feel like we hit kind of all the big stuff.
Before finishing up, if I maybe can jump in and talk about a little bit about the Natalie AI friend. I feel like that was written before AI was what it is today, because you definitely kind of have to feel very sympathetic about it. And maybe the thing that makes the most sense, it's probably like she's grieving and she has the opportunity now to say goodbye. I don't think we're going to get this AI friend in Natalie forever. I think it does feel like, this is her shot at goodbye, like having closure with the death of her friend. And funnily enough, about a couple of minutes, I may be watching rewatching for me and my family will be watching the final season of Batwoman for the first time. Wow. Where they do the same. They do the same with Batwing, with Luke Fox right here. The guy has the AI of his dad in his helmet, in his suit, which is basically that. His arc in there is just saying farewell to his dad because he never got to have that closure. So it would be the same thing, but it probably would be the thing that makes the most sense for me, at least.
Agreed, yeah. And like Ryan Coogler had even mentioned about this, how he talked about AI being such a prominent part of the story, and like he was saying it's kind of a good thing it's coming out when it is because AI is so relevant right now. And I 100% agree. I think it has to end with her realizing, hey, this isn't healthy for me. Hey, this has been nice, but I cannot move on with my life and have you by my side by doing it. And again, I think that just goes into like what I was saying about temptation and being like
that works very well with the current AI morality debate currently.
No, for sure. And it's interesting when you are doing these like comic book projects because AI has always been a very big part of the MCU since the first ever project. And it's interesting because like you have a project like Age of Ultron, which is kind of an anti-technology movie, and how it can be turned into the like wrong hands. But also have characters like Jarvis. We have characters like Vision. We have characters like if you go into like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, you have like Phil Coulson by like the end of the show. These are characters that we love. Like we love these characters, but we live in a world where I stand very anti-AI. I dislike AI in our art and like in our media, and trying to fight against those things. It's like, but I love, Vision. Vision's a fun little guy, right? So it's like, when is it okay and when is it not? And I think there's almost a story that we're kind of building to as like, okay, but what is, AI? Like, what is it really? And is Natalie almost to a point where she's more human than AI? And I feel like that's something that we might start to dive into a little bit. Like, is Vision really a robot by the end of like where he's at? And it's like, well, that's debatable. Like, he does kind of have a soul, and like, what does make a soul? And I think that's going to be, I think we're going to be, going into these next 3 episodes. Like, I think it's very interesting that Natalie has fears. Like, certain things will happen where like she saw the gun and she's like, I can't operate with this. And I'm curious if they're going to be diving into like, well, that's not actually Natalie's fear. That's Riri's fear, like manifesting through her because she was created from her mind, right? So I think that's a very interesting element of it for sure.
I think that's great because she's always trying to, as I mentioned before, I need more money because I need the parts for the suit, and she's always like very mathematically thinking to build the best suit she can. But she's missing the whole point is to have your heart in it. Like, why are you really doing it? I think that just came out like a Fantastic Four 2015 ending because I said like she has all the iron and she only needs the heart part.
Right. Like, what is she ultimately fighting for? And I think you're right about that, where it's like she doesn't quite know. Like, she is so blinded by the execution of like the end goal, but it's like, ultimately, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you need the suit of armor? Why are you doing this? And I think that is going to be the journey. Is like, well, I'm doing this to grieve. I'm doing this to protect
100%.
myself. I'm doing this to. But is she going to find new meaning in that? And like, you're right. Like, she hasn't done a heroing stuff yet. Like, right now, she's not necessarily a superhero, right? She's not doing what she's doing to like go outside and like save people and like like be this hero stopping crime and stuff. It's like, I got the suits to get money and stuff like that. And again, I'm curious to see like what that's going to turn into in those final 3 episodes, and in Champions, and in she's apparently in like Avengers Doomsday is what she said. So it's like, what's that going to look like as well? And also going into the whole like Downey thing, it's like, what's it going to be when the face of Downey comes back? The like face of Iron Man comes back to the world. It's like, oh, he's going to have these suits of armors, I assume, right? So like, what does that look like for her? It's going to be interesting too.
Yeah, I really think just ultimately the purpose of this show will be for Riri to figure out why.
Thanks, buddy.
Why she should be a hero, why she wants to be a hero, how she can help. See the errors of her ways, obviously, as far as like, okay, cool, maybe we can't work with supervillains anymore to get tech to build suits. But okay, this happened. I'm gonna own it, I'm gonna live up to it, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to stop anything like this from happening again, similar to her origin with, again, the death of her stepfather and her best friend. She's like, hey, okay, I've got these resources now. Maybe I don't have quite as many resources as Tony Stark, but I have the most important resource, which is my brain. I can create technology. I can, improve already created technology, like the things that, Stain's son has. And she's going to take all of those elements and, again, kind of push herself into this new, era of hero for herself. Which, again, I think if done right, seeing this all as one package, I will be a lot more content with where we started.
Right.
And I think that is, again, that's the ultimate goal, and that's the big element that they have to hit properly, is to just end the show in a satisfying way. And I think, again, that's the big thing for pretty much any project, right? Is it going to have a satisfying ending? Is it going to retroactively make the beginning make more sense as well?
100%. Like, I think my opinion on the show is 100% just going to lean on what next week gives us, what tomorrow gives us, I guess. Like, I like it so far, but I'm not in love with it yet, and it really just depends on how we nail those final themes, those final ideas, how we wrap things up. I almost hope it's in a way we don't wrap some of the stuff up, because I think like there's a lot of these big ideas that I want to see continue, if not in a season 2, which I think is very unlikely, unfortunately, in some kind of movie of some sort, in Champions, in something that we can continue this idea. Like I said, Hood is such a fun villain already. It feels like a shame to wrap him up in 3 hours of footage next week. Like, that's going to be interesting. With that being said, like, obviously there's so much else we could talk about, but I do think that's going to lead us to the end of our Iron Man, or I'm sorry, our Ironheart discussion here.
Next to the max.
Our next main topic here, we're going to be talking
Yes.
about Ironheart Season 1. Obviously, the first season of many, many, many seasons. Obviously, we're going to get, seasons 1, or what, season 2, and season 3, and season 4, all the way up in season 20. We're getting 20 seasons of this stuff. No, Ironheart Season 1. We talked about it last week, and I was very excited to talk about it this week, because I feel like I needed the whole picture to fully break this down.
Me too.
We had one half of a story, and I said how I feel about this will 100% be determined on how it can wrap its final, or how it can wrap the season, and how many loose threads are still hanging, and how they end it, and all this various stuff. I want to start with you, Jake. Jake, have you seen Ironheart yet? Is this a show that you've wrapped up?
Yes.
Wrapped up yet? Okay, so let's start with you then. Like, what is your general thoughts on the first, I guess, the 6 episodes of Ironheart?
So going into this, I had mixed feelings going in, because I'll be honest, the character was not my favorite part of Wakanda Forever. I had more issues with that movie than most people, but it felt weird to think that she was just kind of put in there to advertise her show, and that wouldn't have been a problem if the show had come out, say, the following year instead of almost 3 years later. That wouldn't have been a problem. But I liked the angle that they took of adding technology with magic. I thought we would have seen something like that more in like the Black Panther Wakanda side of things, because they've had vibranium that's housed there that has quote unquote magical properties, and of course Wakanda is very technologically advanced, so it makes sense that a character that spun off from one of those projects would take those concepts, tech and magic, and kind of blend them into her own. I don't subscribe to the thing at all where people are just taking every opportunity they can to compare her to Tony Stark. I don't see it at all. There's no reason to compare them. It's a different character. She has no ties to Tony Stark, and she's not trying to. The only people that are making those connections are the entitled fans. But I definitely like Riri as a character. I think Dominic did a great job, and I think the series did something that a number of the Disney Plus series didn't do, is that by the end of the series, your lead character is still a very flawed gray character, and I really like that. It means they have plenty of room to grow, and even your characters that have had 5+ years worth of installments, it doesn't mean they're perfect by any means, but you've gotten to go on that journey with them. So that doesn't mean that in X amount of installments Riri is going to be perfect, because I just said many characters are not still, but you're getting to see her journey. Instead of just being thrust into it, you're actually getting to see where it goes, the ups and downs, instead of just being told of her status and then being forced to accept it. I thought her mother was a good character, and the other girl's name I'm forgetting. Her friend, God, I'm forgetting the
Natalie.
Natalie, thank you.
Yeah.
Thought she was a good character. Although Riri's crime team, if you want to call them, I gotta say I did not care for those characters whatsoever. I thought they were pretty bad. But by the time you got to the end of the series, did I have my issues with it? Yes. But I did overall like it. I'm a little mad at the way Marvel released it, how they really wanted to just get it done and over with very quickly, 3 and 3, and they really didn't have any faith in it at all. But
I would have loved talking about the show for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Because there's so many elements of the show that I'm not going to be able to talk about, because we have to just talk about like the overall of what it is and what it means going forward and stuff like that. I do fully agree with you, though, as I think, like, there's been this conversation with a lot of these. It's like, does this feel like a TV show? Does it not? Some do, some haven't. And, like, despite it definitely being a 6-episode event and, like, it being stuck in that formula of the original kind of shows, it ends in a way that none of the other shows have ended. I guess outside of, like, Daredevil kind of ends in a way where it's like, oh, season 2's coming. But it ends in a way where it's not like, well, we are done here. Wrap it up, guys. Let's get ready for their movie appearance. It's like, no, get ready for season 2, guys. Put your butt in gear. And despite if we're going to see that or not, I'm so happy that a show didn't have to, like, hurry and wrap everything up just for the universe at large so they can continue. Like, that was so satisfying to me, being like, wait, what? Like, what are they doing here? No. And it ends being like, no, don't end the episode. I want to see what happens next. And I've been missing that a lot on these Disney Plus shows.
Because a lot of them don't feel like they're made for TV. Like they feel like movies that are awkwardly cut in between. And I'll be honest too, I love that this show fully embraced the comic book goofiness with its villains. I love that they did that. Also, it had really good action. The suit actually ended up looking really good.
Fantastic.
But no, the hate for this show was just blown completely out of proportion. It had a really compelling mystery with the Hood. I thought that was done really well. And there was another character, Xavier, I think was his name. Didn't really like that character either. So, like, there were things I loved, things I really didn't like, but there were. Is it my favorite of the MCU Disney Plus shows? No, but it's also far from my least favorite.
Yeah. How about you, Taz? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on Ironheart. So you kind of know where I stood last week. Like, I didn't love those first 3 episodes. Like, I think it was a little rough for me to kind of get into the feel of the show. Coming into this as kind of the official wrap-up to Phase 5, this is a character that I didn't see her get established in Black Panther 2. I still haven't seen that movie yet. But I came into it, I didn't necessarily need to know a lot of backstory. I'm like, all right, so this is kind of like our spiritual successor to an Iron Man type character, but in a very, very different way. I think episode 1 starts us off in a rough spot. Like, Riri is not very likable to me very early on. Like, but that's the point.
That's the point.
So I think, again, it is very much so. I felt the way that I was supposed to feel in those first handful of episodes. I was a little uneasy. I was like, should I really be rooting for this character? Should I be enjoying watching this character who's actively, doing crimes? Right? She is actively committing crimes to be able to afford pieces and upgrades for her suit. We don't necessarily know why she is so kind of hell-bent on building this Iron Man-esque suit. We kind of learn about her tragic backstory a little bit in those first few episodes. Her best friend Natalie, her stepfather get killed in a very tragic way. She feels very helpless, and that is why we have this introduction of, okay, she wants to do or has to do whatever it takes to be able to build this suit of armor so that she no longer feels powerless, so that she can help people that have gone through similar things or to prevent similar things from happening in the future. I think, yes, there's a lot of elements that people can draw, like, different negative context to, is she, she's not entitled to all of these certain things, and, the whole aspect with the Tony Stark privilege and all of that. I think that that's a very interesting conversation, but I think that she ends up going on a journey where she earns her title in a lot of ways. She's not 100% there, but I think that she earns her way to a decent protagonist by the end of this series for me. I think just in a general context as well, I think the show has a very unique visual style. I mentioned this last week. I really like the title cards. I think the music works very well. I think the shot composition in a lot of ways is very good. There's a lot of Dutch tilts, Dutch angles. I really like that. I love that technique, and I think it works very well. in this show as well. I think it's color graded fairly well. The effects look very good for a TV show. I think the biggest standout is the fact that the suit is practical sometimes, or it looks practical. It looks tangible, like it's not nanotech. I think that is really, really good. I really like that element of actually getting to see her fully get into the suit, fully get out of the suit, that sort of thing. I really enjoy that. I think my favorite element in that first kind of half of the season was her interactions with Alden Ehrenreich's character. I think he was a very good addition to the show. I liked kind of seeing his kind of build up from a very different style of character to who he ends up becoming, is as far as like an antagonist goes and everything.
He was getting quite a bit of hate, and
yeah.
I kind of don't get it. Like, I thought he was really, really good, especially if we're planning on seeing him again, which maybe this was the last time we see him. I don't know if you guys heard this, but like, it came out this week that he was supposed to be one of the villains of Captain America 4, which is great, crazy, and it's something I actually probably would have really liked to have seen if they could have pulled that off, you know. But yeah, like, I really like that he's this kind of like sleeper agent of a villain, right? Like, those feelings and those motivations are in there, and Riri just had to unlock them and like get them out. And yes, a lot of what he's doing in the show is against his will, and we see that in the final kind of like the final episode especially. But like, I like that he just needed a little bit of that push. Like, that first time they fight in, what is it, episode, I think it's episode 5. Yeah, it's when like Riri and him is like having that face off, and that's a really cool moment that I guess I didn't really think about until it happens. Like, oh, you have your next gen Iron person and your like legacy you know, Ironmonger here facing off against each other, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're doing a thing, until it happens. It's like, they're doing the thing, you know.
It also doesn't feel like a way of, hey, look, we're trying to replicate this other thing.
And like, that's the way you do these legacy characters. It's not like,
I don't even know if I'd call it a legacy character though.
Well, like, I guess it's just kind of how you like create new characters, right? Like, I think it's very smart to like create these new characters via what you already know. So it's not like we're bringing back Stain for Iron Man 4. It's like, no, this is a new show with its new themes, with its new ideas. You just like it because it's these legacy, you know, kind of ideas that we can kind of play with. And it's not like he's doing this because of his father's legacy. It's like, no, he doesn't really care about his father that much. You know, it's just, he's doing his own thing, kind of.
I mean,
yeah, I do really think. Here, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, what protagonist in the MCU doesn't have daddy issues?
Yeah, and I'm curious about that too, because like, the Hood, I think, is a big one for people. And like, one of the big criticisms I'm seeing of these final couple is like, well, he just has daddy issues, and that's kind of like the end of his motivation. And I am kind of like, yeah. And I don't think that's bad necessarily, but they don't let that cook, I guess, would be one of my big criticism. And I think most of my criticism in the show isn't what's there. It's just I want more of what's there, I guess, is ultimately what I'd give it. Where it's like, okay, I like the idea that he's trying to like take from these corporations, and he's trying to be successful because that's what he's trying to prove his father wrong. Like those are fine ideas on paper. It's just like, I don't give a shit about his father. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit about that moment. I would have been better if we got to see like maybe some flashbacks of him as a child and like what he had to go through growing up or something. Like, show me why that moment's important to him, instead of just being like, hey, I hate you. Oh, I hate you too. Okay, sign these papers. You know, it's like,
because then the stuff in present day will have a lot more weight.
100%. Yeah.
I mean,
if they show you instead of tell you, it'll have a lot more weight.
Yeah. Going back to Stain, though, I think that he creates a very interesting dichotomy there, right? So Riri seeks him out as somebody to help her on her journey, and somebody to kind of use as a backdoor kind of, you know, wild card against her, you know, her fight against the Hood, right? So she knows that Parker is bad news. She knows that she's working for a crew of criminals, but she's thinking the ends justify the means at this point. So she's putting her faith and her trust in somebody who she thinks will be on her side in the end. However, the dominoes fall in a way in which all of these, not necessarily lies piling up, but all of these different things that she's taking on pile up one after another after another. She gets way in over her head. They do their big heist, and it ends with the death of Parker's cousin. Riri is, for all intents and purposes, responsible, and she also leaves behind evidence linking Zeke Stain to Riri and now the criminal organization that is going through with these heists. So not only is she responsible for the death of a crew member, but she is now also responsible for exposing this guy who she very much so brought in forcefully and promised that he would not be caught up in it or would not be involved in it. And I think ending off that first half of the season, ending off the first half of the season with that, again, put it in a difficult spot for me. Again, like I said a lot last week, is Riri just seemed very unlikable at the beginning. She was making so many mistakes, going down so many different paths that your typical MCU hero does not do. And it made it very tough for me to connect to this character. And I was in a spot, I was like, I'm not vibing with it. But I was like, hey, we got to sit here. We got to, sit with it. Let's think about where this show can go, because there was the one element that was saving it for me, which was kind of this magical side of things. Where does the hood come from? There are rumors of our boy Mephisto finally popping up after all of these years, going back to our WandaVision speculation back in the day. So I had to hold on for the long haul. And I have to say, I was so much happier with the back half of the series than I was with that first half. And this is a whole other question or a whole other conversation to have at some point as well. But the fact that they split it into two halves versus, again, weekly drops, or even making it just like a special presentation or a movie or something like that, I think that there's definitely a question to be had about that. But again, going into the back half, it was such a stronger side to the show. I wish the entire show was like this back half of the season. There was a deeper dive into the magic side of things. We got to really deconstruct Riri's motivations and her feelings of inadequacy and, can she live up to this mantle of Ironheart that she's creating for herself? She realizes, hey, I'm in way over my head. I have joined this criminal organization. My best friend is a AI that I accidentally created, and what's the morality behind that as well? You've got Parker going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole because he has lost the only family member that he has left. And he is gunning for Riri this entire season, or this entire back half of the season, might I say. He uses Riri's old allies against her with Zeke Stain, giving him upgrades and making him, just, again, a adversary for her to take down. We have the battle for White Castle, which I thought was hilarious, and it reminded me of the Power Rangers battling over Krispy Kreme. So Ironheart goes to White Castle. Very, very funny. But yeah, we're building this entire season towards that kind of mesh, that merge of magic and tech, or magic and science. And finally revealing, again, who's been kind of pulling the strings in all of this. And that Mephisto reveal, man, like, I think I can give a pass to every little issue, every little nitpick I had, for the sole fact that they finally gave us this character that I've wanted to see on screen for so long. I'll save my thoughts for a second, but what did you guys think of Mephisto?
You know what's so funny is I didn't care about Mephisto as a character, mainly because I don't know. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I love Mephisto. I've read every. I don't know. I don't know the guy. The only
What's
thing
a
I know about
Mephisto?
the guy, right? Like, I know kind of what he does. I know his, like, I know he's a demon from hell that makes steels and blah blah blah. And we all wanted him for WandaVision and blah blah blah. Like, I wanted to see him like for the bit. Like, I wanted to be like, hey, it's him. We asked for
It's
him
the
like five
guy.
years ago. Yeah, it's him.
I'll
You
talk
know?
on this bit last.
Okay, yeah. So it's like I didn't want. I only reason I wanted him just for we could finally say, oh, he's in the embassy. Because obviously there's that thing in Agatha, and like he appears and instantly I love him. It's so like this actor. What is it? The actor from like Poor Rat, right? Like
Yeah, what is it? Sacha Baron Cohen.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has a presence instantly. He makes his presence known instantly, and within just this like what maybe 8 minutes of screen time in this episode, right? I already kind of wish he was the main villain in these upcoming movies. Like, I've given my thoughts on the whole Downey thing and how I kind of don't, love that direction. And I think this final episode came out and I realized there has been a connective tissues between these movies and TV shows. We just didn't realize it yet. And it kind of feels like it was Mephisto. Like you're building your stuff up through, obviously started all the way back with like WandaVision, which was your first proper project of Phase 4, and you continue that thread through Doctor Strange, and then you continue that through Spider-Man, and then you continue this stuff through Agatha. And we're about to get Vision Quest, and like I feel like a lot of these stories are these stories about like guilt and greed and selfishness, and these are kind of all these themes of Mephisto and kind of what he thrives on. And I kind of end the episode being like, I kind of wish Champions was what we're building towards this whole what's going to ultimately be 3 sagas, because it kind of would make sense. And obviously it wouldn't fit with your whole multiverse thing, right? But if I was in charge, and maybe it's a bad idea because half of it has been done in TV, but like after Kang had to go away, I would have been the guy like at the back of the room being like, you know what? Why not Mephisto? Like people were begging for him. People made thousands of videos on this, guys. If you called it like Avengers Mephisto's Revenge or something, I'd be like, okay, Rise of Mephisto or something. Like I feel like people would. I think that'd get butts and seats. You know what I mean? And maybe you can't because there's a whole thing in like China where you can't like have like devil propaganda in media. So maybe that's a thing you can't.
I guess they can't release an X-Men movie in China if Nightcrawler's going to be in it.
Yeah, like there's like there's that stuff at play, but like I kind of loved it.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm actually a fan of Mephisto and a lot of other media types. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm the expert. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I do really like the character. And there's the famous time in comics, and even other media have done this because you reminded me of it when you brought up Doctor Doom. So Doom's mother, there's a whole like backstory of where Doom's mother was a prisoner in Mephisto's realm, and it was somebody in her village that she essentially traded herself for to save, and then Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange teamed up and went to Mephisto's realm and freed her. And if we could see something of that regard with Benedict Cumberbatch, and because he would recognize the face of this Doctor Doom, maybe you could have something there because he does know that face. And I don't know if you want to bring Mephisto in that way, you could, but kind of like I've said about Ultron too, like that's a character that could be the big bad of a saga. And not just a one-off character in either a Doctor Strange movie or a Ghost Rider project, things like that. Like that's a way that not only is it a villain that's big enough for a saga, but it's also through that villain you can bring so many characters together. Like you can have Ghost Rider meet somebody like Doctor Strange and have that whole magic and hell type of magic dichotomy of like their different types of abilities that they possess. You could have the whole deal with the devil dichotomy that Mephisto is really infamous for. Of course, he was very prominent in what is considered by many to be the worst Spider-Man comic of all time, One More Day. It was
Which
very
is
prominent.
basically what we did here in the season. Like I kind of feel like
Yeah,
a take on that story.
yeah. I wish we would stop acknowledging that story, but that's
Yeah.
that's a different conversation.
We've already got references to it because the new Spider-Man movie, isn't that called Brand New Day?
Yeah, and No Way Home kind of took elements from Brand New Day,
Yes.
or not Brand New Day.
One
More
more
day.
day.
Sorry.
Yep.
I
Um,
mean,
Yep.
is
And yeah, that's I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But like,
would there be a chance we could get Mephisto for Spider-Man 4?
I doubt it,
dude. I mean, anything's possible now. I think,
I mean,
honestly.
if I kind of hope they don't adapt Brand New Day though. But granted, they obviously One More Day is not that great of a story, and they took the most loose of adaptations for it for No Way Home and made it into a really good movie. So they could very well do that for Brand New Day too. There were probably a lot more of a heavy adaptation from the original story because it's the title of your movie. But a lot of people on the Spider-Man side of things are theorizing Mr. Negative for the fourth Spider-Man.
That's what I would prefer.
Yeah. I could see it, but also, I've said this too. Depending on where that movie takes Peter, by the time the Avengers movies come around, or at least the second one, if he is in the second one, because it's like we are pretty sure he's not in Doomsday, but he could very well be in Secret Wars. And if they're going to do, the whole black symbiote thing where he gets that suit in like Battle World in a lab, that if it comes on him when he's at his lowest point, like say he's at another low point by the end of the movie, that could be the perfect entry point for it.
I don't think they'll do this, Jeffrey. I think mainly because that is a lot of homework, and I think unfortunately they don't. I don't think they want Doomsday. I think is a movie that they want anyone to go see and not have to be like, oh, you have to go watch Ironheart to understand what's going on here. And maybe they can reintroduce him here, but I feel like
those also aren't two characters that would typically work together. Like they would compete for the hand of control.
Yeah.
But maybe I wouldn't be shocked if he's in it though. Like I would not be shocked if he.
Yeah, like, I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's backtrack a little bit, right? So starting off with the finale episode. So episode 6 kicks off with giving us our backstory, not just for the Hood, but there is where we get our first introduction to Mephisto. We see him save Parker from this escape from a heist. They go into the pizza shop. It's hopping. It's lively. And they sit down and they have a little conversation about, aspirations in life. Mm. And very much so, again, in the Lucifer context, he asks Parker what he truly desires.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a great element. And for those who aren't super, again, familiar with Mephisto, from what I understand, comic book Mephisto is not literally the devil like Lucifer, DC Comics Lucifer is. He is a cosmic entity that kind of embodies the characteristics of what the devil would be.
Yeah.
He has his own pocket dimension that he calls hell, but it's not actually.
Right.
So he's very much so, again, taking inspiration from the devil, making deals like the devil would. However, he is Mephisto. So he is, again, that cosmic entity that is making those deals. But, again, with a twist. He's going to take your soul, just like Lucifer would, right? So he makes this deal. He, gives Parker the Hood, is like, hey, you'll have riches beyond your imagination. You'll get to be, filthy, greasy rich is what he says, right? He gives him the hood. He gives him the tools to go about that, but doesn't necessarily tell him how to do it or what to do. Is like, hey, here's your hood. I'll see you later, dude. And the more that Parker uses the hood, the more it corrupts him. I feel like that is kind of signifying the more of his soul that it is taking from him, right?
It's
so
also,
the magic comes at a cost, and they mention that a little bit later as well. Like when Riri and her family and friends, they're building the new suit. I really loved that sequence as well, using the car to create the new version of the Ironheart suit. I think it looked great.
Yeah.
But they infused that new suit with some magic from the daughter of one of Riri's mother's friends, who is, I believe the character's name is Zelma. She is pretty big in the kind of Doctor Strange-esque side of things. I think the story is Strange Academy, I believe.
Yep.
And guess what show they've been trying to get off the ground for a long time?
Strange Academy. So that is, again, another big element of, okay, where could we see these characters in the future? If not an Ironheart Season 2, what else could we see? And that comes back a little bit later on as well. But so we infuse the magic into the new version of the Ironheart suit. But by doing that, we erase the Natalie AI, which is a very sad moment, very big moment, and very much so something that is going to be sitting with Riri for a little bit throughout the rest of this episode. We have her go, and what she thinks originally is going to be just confronting Parker. She ends up having to fight young Han Solo in a little bit of a, a mid-game boss fight. The fight scene is very cool because it's kind of like somebody who doesn't necessarily want to fight you. It's like, oh, hey, dodge this, dodge that. It was very MCU of them to be like, all right, this is the only way that you can stop me. Kick me where I don't have any, cybernetics. I think that was kind of, a little silly. Little silly.
Yeah.
But I do like where they leave off. It's like, hey, we're not necessarily enemies, but we're not friends either.
Yeah.
Like, I know you kind of.
I like how there's not
over. Yeah.
This is not over.
Answer.
Yeah. This is not over, and it's gonna come back around. Like,
that's the thing where it's like no one's characters are necessarily wrapped up. Like,
no,
they all kind of have their season endings, but it's like until next time, which I think
and so again,
really
to me,
important.
this felt like a mid-season finale. This felt like the halfway point of a movie. This didn't feel like a season finale. Certainly did not feel like a series finale.
Not a series finale, and I think that I think I actually personally thought it felt like a season finale. Personally, like I think I love that in the way where it's like I have to wait all summer to see how this wraps up. Holy shit, I can't wait until October and stuff like that. And I think like my opinions on the show, I guess will shift depending on if we get to see these characters again.
Yeah.
Because, and I guess that's jumping to the end, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead of whatever template you have here, Taz. But
no, you're good.
I kind of love, like you've been saying this whole thing, Riri is a very flawed character. She's not she's very smart, but she makes mistakes. And there's been a lot of complaining, but like she's too smart for that. I can't believe she would do that. But I don't think it matters how smart you are. Temptation is temptation. And even though she knows,
and you're gonna backslide.
You're going to backslide, and I like in that moment, she knows this is not the right thing to do, but she does not care. And I think temptation is a drug. Temptation gets to the best of us, and she is in a moment of grief. She just lost her best friend again. She is vulnerable, and in this moment, she's like, "Fuck it. This world doesn't give a shit about me. Like, there's this huge narrative of like this world is kind of out to get me. Fuck it. Let me get any advantage I can here." And I would even imagine maybe like some of her headspace is like, okay, I'll accept this now and I'll fix it later. I'll create some kind of something that can take him down or something. If I can just do this now and then I can do that later kind of thing. And I think I respect how ballsy it is to be like, oh, you thought she was supposed to be a good guy at the end of the season? No, not yet. We're going to see that build over the course of, I imagine, in their mind, a season 2 or maybe a season 3.
So you were talking about Taz's template, and you said to me like there was like rankings in this. Like, what exactly is that, or are you about to get to that?
We're gonna do like a Phase 5 ranking after we do a little Ironheart stuff here.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I do think also the dichotomy there between Riri and Parker is very interesting, and seeing how very opposite the two of them start. And then
Yeah.
as we get further and further along this season, the closer and closer they become as far as motivation goes, right? So Riri going into this final fight is at her lowest point once again, right? She's lost her best friend AI. She's had to recreate this new suit. She's now lost her new friend with Zeke, who is now against her for all intents and purposes. And Parker is at his lowest point. He's lost his cousin. He is not, getting the fame and fortune that he so desired from Mephisto originally. He's kind of feeling like he's been given the short end of the stick in this deal. So he calls out to Mephisto in his, little secret panic room and is like, dude, what the heck is going on? Mephisto shows up and he starts talking in his British accent, which again reminds me a lot of the, Lucifer TV show Lucifer. I think it's very funny how he changes his personality based off of the scenario that he's in.
Yeah.
This was very serious. This was hey, I gave you the power. I can take he who giveth can taketh away, right?
Yeah.
So I gave you that hood. I gave you the tools to succeed. If you're not succeeding, that's on you. That sounds like a personal problem to me. He's like, hey, power me up, give me everything you can. He like boops him on the nose and is like, go do your thing, dude. So we get our final showdown between Riri and the Hood. I really liked the visuals of this fight scene. I think seeing the magic kind of combined with the tech of the suit.
Yeah.
Great visuals. I think having the kind of demon side of the Hood come out as well, really, really cool looking. Again, I wish we got more of this. I wish that this was the direction that we were going in the MCU. I'm like, in a lot of ways, all of this magic stuff is 1,000 times more interesting to me than the multiversal stuff.
And
WandaVision, Agatha, those were two of my favorite projects. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Well, yes, multiversal elements, but the magic, the dream walking and stuff like that. I think that is such a cool concept. And again, the fact that we have been speculating on this, omnipotent figure pulling the strings in the background since the beginning. Was it Mephisto? Was it Nightmare? They speculate that it's Dormammu.
That was
and I loved that when he was like, Riri's like, I know who you are, Dormammu, and he's like, Dormammu, like,
kidding me? Yeah.
What? Like, that was great.
And I love how this show, like, really plays like it knows what world it's in, and I think this show. It works very well on its own. I think you can kind of watch the show and not necessarily need anything else, but also it uses elements from Black Panther, from Iron Man, with like Doctor Strange, with Agatha, and it feels like we're living in this beautiful world where everything is kind of there, and it really reminded me of like that magic I love from the MCU where everything is connected, and it's not like we're bringing in cameos and doing all these kind of references. But, it's like Doctor Strange is out there, and all the Shuri is out there, and all this serious stuff. I know you didn't watch Black Panther 2, but I'm very glad they at least referenced Shuri here.
Yes, and me too. Me too.
I think, like, maybe she brushed
that scene was pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. I think it was still a very viable option, and arguably probably what she should have done. Like, I know from her perspective, like, you want me to call, from her point of view, the, like, Queen of Wakanda. She's like you want me to do that? No, that's crazy. You're gonna say, but I know you haven't seen the movie. I think she would have done that in an instant. Like, no, you helped me save Wakanda. Yeah, I'll help you take care of this little demon thing. And to the point, she also may have been like, hey, Avengers, there's a demon that this little girl is struggling with.
Well, isn't there like mystical elements in Black Panther 2 as well? Like, there's a lot of stuff with like the ancestral plane. From what I understand, like not necessarily same kind of magic, but like they dive a little little bit into it. If I'm not...
I wouldn't say any more than the first one necessarily, but like there is always like a magical element connected to Black Panther, right? Because of the fruit and the ancestral plane and stuff like that. But like, yeah, no, like, you know, when she's like, I'm not calling her, I was like, I think you should. Actually, I think Shiri could really help you in this scenario. I think that could be cool. But it's like a nice way of being like, why aren't the other heroes showing up? It's like, well, because she won't call them.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way of working around it.
If we literally got something like that, okay, way big backtrack. Daredevil Born Again, right? If we got some sort of reference of like, Spider-Man's on vacation or something like that, just something small that it's like, okay, why are we not calling any other New York-based heroes?
Yeah,
we know why in the context of Ironheart, Riri tried to keep this to herself, because again, I don't think she wants any of her hero friends knowing that she worked with a criminal organization, even though again,
true.
One of my other big nitpicks is that she does not care at all about her secret identity. She's just flying around, taking her suit off, not caring
like Iron Man
who sees her. Yeah.
I'm kidding. But no, then like you run into something like, you know, even though I like this movie, when you run into something like Captain America Brave New World, that is a prime example of, okay, where are all of these other characters?
Right.
You literally had one of them pop up in the movie for a quick cameo and then they're gone.
Right.
But yeah, like you always have to put that question out of your mind whenever you're going to watch one of these movies. It's unfortunate because it's part of a larger universe, but whenever they write themselves into a corner like that, it doesn't always feel connected because it's like, okay,
there's always restrictions. There's restrictions when you do TV versus movies. And I think bringing up Brave New World is actually a very interesting perspective, right? So again, Ironheart was very self-contained. You got references to the larger MCU, but no real appearances, no real cameos, versus something like Brave New World. I didn't realize Bucky was in a scene, you know, until I watched it a couple nights ago. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize that there are some ties to the larger universe, and you can do that with the movies because they're movies. They're bigger blockbusters. You have a higher, a larger budget. You can expand it a little bit more. But I think, too, in some ways, Ironheart being very self-contained works a lot in its favor. I think it really does. Because, again, you're able to dive deeper into these magical elements. You don't have Doctor Strange coming in and saying, Riri Williams, you have messed with the fabric of magic, space, and time. You've made a deal with Mephisto. What are you doing? Like you don't have that element.
Whenever you have all those nods to those other projects, it benefits the universe. It makes everything feel a little bit more connected, but it doesn't always benefit the project.
Right, like we had, like Kamar-Taj was referenced, right? Doctor Strange was referenced. I think that's more than enough. I don't need it to be a cameo fest.
Right.
No, 100%. I will also say that I do think Strange and Riri would be a very fun dynamic that I would love. Like, if Doctor Strange 3 had like Riri as like kind of like your co-character, I'd be kind of okay with that because it is kind of like, yes, she's not Iron Man, but also I think it's kind of funny to be like Iron Man, this character that got on his nerves is like it's him, but with magic, which is
think about like when we had the Iron Man, like when they put the cape on the Iron Man suit, right? In what was it in Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
Was that an actual scene or a deleted scene? I can't remember.
On the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, like didn't Doctor Strange? I swear I saw something of like Doctor Strange's cape on Iron Man's suit.
I don't remember.
Maybe concept.
I feel like there was like either a concept art or a deleted scene or something.
You sure that wasn't like a toy?
I don't know.
But either way, like I do think like she could be a really interesting like foil to Doctor Strange. Like
maybe I'm just completely misremembering that.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Forget what I said. Maybe I'm misremembering or just thinking of like a piece of fan art or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, which there were definitely a lot of those circling the internet when the movie was out.
Around Endgame,
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back slightly to the whole ending of it all because I feel like we gotta
there
a little bit,
get ourselves back. Yeah.
But like, how do you feel about the ending? Because I think it's one of the more controversial MCU endings in a minute now. There's some people who think it's a brilliant ending to the show. There's some people that think it's a very disrespectful ending to both Riri and the show, like the show as a whole. How are we sitting with that? Are we okay that she accepts Mephisto's offer, or are we a little angry that that's where we left her character?
So, okay, we end things. Riri beats Parker, takes the hood, is walking out of the pizzeria, and stumbles into Mephisto. They sit down. She takes her Transformers cosplay off, as he refers to it as.
I love that he just...
Yeah.
He's just like,
and
he can get out of that.
And I loved how apprehensive Riri was. How very much so... Okay, deleted scene. Thank you. I knew I wasn't crazy. I loved how apprehensive Riri was, right? Is like, who is this guy? What is he doing? How does he have this magic? How does he know so much kind of about what's going on, about me? You get a little bit more of that background. He's kind of like hyping himself up. He's like, oh, hey, I've made all of these deals in the past. Like, you know how this came into play. You know, that was all me, that sort of thing. And then we get to kind of the, okay, what do you desire? What do you want? How can I help you be a better hero, I guess, in a lot of ways. And again, Riri is at the lowest point of her journey. She has fallen very much so from where she wants to be. Yes, she beat the villain at the end of the day, but at what cost? She has lost her best friend in the AI form, and she now has this very powerful being offering her the one thing that she wants more than anything. And I think too, as we're getting the like the flashes of what we've seen previously, right? I think that's Mephisto kind of prying into her mind, manipulating her to an extent. So I don't think that this decision was 100% hers. I think it's a lot of Mephisto, a lot of his manipulation. It's him pulling his mojo on her, so to speak, right? You see him stirring up the coffee, and you see the actual Mephisto reflection in the spoon. And I think that, again, that's a big signal, like, hey, yes, I'm giving her this quote-unquote choice, but there is no choice in the matter. You've already tapped into magic, and now I'm here to present a solution, and a solution to quite possibly a problem that he created in and of himself, right? Is how did Natalie actually disappear when they tapped into the magic side of the suit? Why did she disappear? I think it's truly, it is Mephisto who caused Natalie to disappear, which then sent Riri down this spiral where she, then goes after Hood, takes the hood. She, in the end, keeps the hood. The hood is on the cape is on the suit in this show as well,
which I cannot wait to see.
Which
what
I want. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
But in the end, he has again brought her to her lowest point and coaxes her into making this decision because there's no other way around it. Would you, in the same position, make any different of a choice?
No.
Could you pass up that choice?
I think
I will bring your best friend back,
Yeah.
And all you have to do is give me something you won't even miss.
Yeah, I just want to hit that point before you go away from it. The whole thing with Mephisto, that is what he does to a T. He will give someone an offer and then twist it in his own way. And to quote him directly from Ultimate Alliance, he goes, "I follow my bargains to the letter. I can't help it if others misinterpret what was said."
Yeah,
that is Mephisto to a T.
And I wonder,
he's a freaky genie.
Yeah,
and
that's all there is to it.
And look, this might be a comic thing that you guys can answer, but like I'm just going like from the perspective of this show alone and nothing else. Like I do kind of agree with you, Taz. Like I kind of like this idea that they don't even have a choice. Like it's not like I don't know if Riri could be like, no, thank you, and like walk away. Like I'm not sure if that's
no, not at all.
Kind of feels like this like siren that's like luring you in.
When
It's
he
like,
has his sights set on somebody, he doesn't let them go.
And here's the thing too, is because he did the same thing to Parker. Parker was very apprehensive, and it's like a car salesman, right? You know, you walk in there, you're like, oh no, I'm just here to test drive. And then Mephisto's like, well, your old car's not doing too well. You've had this car for a while. Why don't we go for this test drive? Maybe let's look at a couple cars that might be out of your price range. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a nice test drive, wasn't it? Wouldn't you and your family really love this new car? You could fit all your groceries, put the dog in there, take the kids to soccer practice. Like, this is a great vehicle, isn't it? Yeah. We're having all these great deals. How could you say no? It's the end of the month. We'll give you a good financing rate. We'll extend the warranty on it.
Yeah.
You know. And that's exactly what he's doing here. Is he's hyping up the deal. He's making it feel too good to be true. Mm-hmm. And I think he's very charming in that aspect as well. You know, he's got his British accent and everything too. So he's, got that kind of like authority to him. Can't unsee him as a car salesman. Yeah. That's what Mephisto's been doing. He's top car salesman at I don't know, like at Ford, let's say, right?
He got his idea. He got the idea from Deadpool.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, what do you want out of everything in the world? What do you want? New car.
Yeah. What do you most desire?
Ferrari.
But no, he's very yeah. Like, but he's very charming in that aspect too. I think he's a tough person to say no to. And also again, he's not lying at all. He is telling 100% the truth, or at least his version of the truth, what he believes to be true.
Yeah, his interpretation.
And it is exactly. And then it is up to Riri. It is up to Parker to then take what he's saying and run with it.
And also he doesn't tell them what his end of the deal is, right? It's like something that you won't miss. I'd be like, no, write it down on paper exactly what I.
Yeah, what is it? What am I giving? What am I giving to you?
And that could be my soul. That could be my life. And what happens once anyone who's wearing that is filled up with all of that? Yeah. That stuff.
Yeah, and
we don't exactly know what that is. Exactly.
Well, I think I know exactly what that is. I think you saw it with Parker. Think about the hood. Every time he used his power, the corruption would grow on him until he fully became that kind of demon version of himself, right? That signifies the more you use Mephisto's power, the more of a hold he has over you, the more he owns your soul.
And you know what character that's exactly like? Ghost Rider. That's exactly that character. And, the whole thing of him twisting the deals, because, of course, the famous thing with Johnny Blaze, he wants his stepdad cured of cancer. Mephisto gets rid of the stepdad's cancer only to let him die in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
And that was, Johnny was not specific, so Mephisto used that to his advantage. And the more Johnny kept transforming and changing, the more that Mephisto had a hold over him.
Be careful what you wish for. The monkey's paw. All of these kinds of stories, again, very much so here. Riri, be careful what you wish for. You wanted... I don't think she asked for Natalie, the person, to come back. I think she just said, I want my friend back. I think, right? In her mind, thinking in my mind, thinking the AI version of herself, and that's why she thought at the beginning, oh my gosh, AI Natalie, whatever, and then she goes to touch her, see if she's real, and she's an actual person, and that is I think that's the realization where she's like, oh shoot, I messed up. But at this point, I don't care. I don't care what it costs me. My friend is back. She gives her the hug, and you see that corruption start to grow.
Start to spread.
You see that corruption start to spread. The suit is in the background the whole time with the hood and everything as well. And I think whatever the next project is that she is in, whether it is Strange Academy, whether it's Ironheart Season 2, whether she shows up in Vision Quest, which I think is a good possibility because we've got the Billy and Tommy aspect of that.
I think she would have showed up in Armor
Doomsday.
Wars. That series.
I 100%
Armor Wars.
I agree. And I mean, she had stated that she's in Avengers Doomsday. That does concern.
Was her name on one of the chairs for the Doomsday
reveal? It was not on
reveal?
a chair.
No.
But she said, like leading into the movie, that yeah, I'm going to be in Avengers Doomsday. Now I take that with a grain of salt. Actors say things now. You know, I was talking to our friend Ronan about this. It was like maybe she thought, like maybe she's in something that she thought was Avengers Doomsday, and it's like Vision Quest or something.
Or she's in Secret Wars and not Doomsday, right? She's like, oh, I know I'm going to be in an Avengers movie,
right? Because it was the same sort of questionable things. Whenever you saw those tweets from Benedict Cumberbatch come out, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in this. Wait, I'm not in this. Wait, I am." And it's we're getting confused.
I think the ideal situation for me right now would be if tomorrow maybe comes out after Avengers Secret Wars or something. I do want that Champions project. I really want. I would love this like Champions, like 10-episode series that is Mephisto as like the villain, because I do think Mephisto makes a lot of sense for that team of characters.
Oh yeah,
and after we've seen everything, like outside of Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel, which is definitely away from the supernatural world.
Yeah, a little more street level.
Yeah,
but like once you look at. You have obviously Ironheart that I assume if this happens in this way would be like the center of everything. Seems like it could be the center of that show. Billy and Tommy is directly connected to like the dark dimension, especially Billy. And I think Billy would be fascinating because I think actually it was me and you talked about this last week, Taz. He has a lot of guilt and a lot of things that he could want to be he would want to ask for. He has a lot of things. I mean, he is very similar to Riri, where he has done some really bad things to get what he wants.
I feel like he'd probably be willing to make a deal with Mephisto to get his mom back.
And that is scary as hell. Someone with Billy's power teaming up with Mephisto, I think he would.
Imagine having like Ghost Agatha be like, dude, no, like this. We fought death, but no, this is real stuff right here.
That'd be fun.
And I like how they also like kind of didn't they reference death a little bit too? I feel like in this a bit is like, or at least like there are some comparisons to be drawn between like Mephisto taking souls and death being the one that actually like should guide the souls to where they're supposed to go. But Mephisto is unnaturally not just taking souls, but putting souls back into the land of the living. So how will death react to that?
Maddie said, would you want the Champion Project before or after Secret Wars? Ideally, I would love before Doomsday and Secret Wars, right? For we don't have to deal with that stuff with these characters.
I think post Doomsday, but before Secret Wars is the likely position.
I think he'll be... Unfortunately, I think he'll be after both.
Okay.
We don't know of anything that's in between those right now.
But maybe it's a Secret Project. You like there's going to be a large gap in between... Because like Avengers Secret Wars is probably going to be December of 2020. What is it?
7.
Yeah, 7. So like
it's 26, 27.
There technically is time,
you could fit like a third Doctor Strange in between there too.
Sure, yes. and maybe there's a reason why none of those Young Avengers cast members were announced on those chairs. Yes. We didn't get no Miss Marvel or like Kate Bishop or Haley Steinfeld has been very like snarky over these last couple like last year. Like I know something.
I forgot. And again, I didn't realize that she was at the end of the Marvels until I just watched it. I was I was like, oh my gosh, like what? Okay, we're definitely doing Young Avengers now. But there's so much crossover to be had, and I think you said it earlier on, is like there are so many elements and pieces of connective tissue that felt very disconnected until now. I think Mephisto is the glue holding this phase together, starting with WandaVision and ending here with Ironheart. Again, whoever thought that we were gonna say that, right?
Yeah, because we were still in a point where we thought Kang was going to be that glue. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, we're like, what's the connective thread?
And again,
because there's been nothing. This would have been one of my biggest frustrations. We externally as fans, we know Doom is coming, but there has been nothing.
There's
within
no
these
setup.
projects to suggest Doom is coming.
And rumor has it there's very little, if anything, even in Fantastic Four to like set that up outside of maybe a post-credit scene.
Which is exactly why you hire Downey, which I don't personally love. I'm
and it's like
not against it. I'm still
in a weird way. Like if somebody presented these two to me, right? Mephisto comes to me with the deal. Would you rather see Robert Downey Jr. come back to the MCU as Doctor Doom, or would you rather have Mephisto, car salesman and deal extraordinaire, be the big bad of this next MCU phase? I'm choosing Mephisto every day of the week because you have your magic Avengers, right? You've got Doctor Strange. You bring back Wanda. You have Billy and Tommy.
Reyes,
you now have
bring him back.
You now have Ironheart. You have America Chavez and Zelma and all of these characters that we're now introducing. You can bring in Agatha and bring back Death and all of this stuff, right? Bring in the Spider-Man element of it, where again, brand new day versus one more day and all the days,
and
right?
I think also I think every character has that weakness for something, right? And I think it would have been such a good wrap up of this saga, because what has this whole saga been about? If there was a main theme for this entire saga, it would be grief.
Yes,
everybody is grieving, and everybody wants something. Everybody would bring in almost any of these MCU characters outside of a few couple. Where it's like,
I think almost everybody would fall into that trap and make that deal. And I think that brings us back to a really good piece of this puzzle as well. Again, I started off with not liking the direction of Riri, thinking that she was unlikable, going down a bad path, right? This back half really made me connect to the character. I love her motivation. I really enjoy her backstory. And I think playing devil's advocate here, more than anything, I wholeheartedly agree with her as far as why she made this deal. I can see why she made this deal. Was it the right choice? No, but I see the vision. No pun intended, right? I see the vision for where they are going. You had to sit back, let them cook, and really get us to this point of, okay, again, somebody who has seen all of this crazy cosmic stuff go down, seeing the connection and bringing the magic element into the life of somebody who's been so tech and science-based until now, and seeing all of this supernatural stuff happen and being like, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's say yes, because what's worse than what's going on right now? I don't have my friend. I don't have my AI. I don't have my stepfather. I don't have a working suit and things like that. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? I've already hit rock bottom. And again, I would be hard pressed to find anybody in that same position that wouldn't make that choice. Again, big moral dilemma, and that seems to be our theme for this year's worth of streams is moral dilemmas in these shows. But I think again it presents such a great question, and this show did for me what I wanted it to do. Is it changed my opinion on Riri from episode 1 to episode 6. I wholeheartedly really enjoyed the journey. I think she's in a very, very interesting spot, and this might be right now the storyline that I am the most interested in
I agree.
outside of whatever's going to go on with Billy, Tommy, possibly bringing back Wanda and the Vision side of things.
Like I
I
said,
think that really shows.
That whole run of characters is where I'm personally like invested in. Like Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, somewhat Billy and Tommy, now her, like this kind of side of the MCU. I'm kind of like, well, Doctor
Can't forget Moon Knight.
Damned. I would never say that.
Can't forget Eli Bradley.
Sure, I'd love if they threw him in here. I would have preferred if he was in Captain America 4, but
right. We keep seeing more and more things that were cut from that movie, and it makes me sad.
Yep.
Maddie, I 100% agree. Like, I love, again, like I think if they could have had just like a neater through line, I think this could have been a fantastic saga. Like these themes of like grief and sadness and temptation is so cool to see. It's just like getting there is a bit bumpy.
Here's the thing: there is that through line, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, there is like you said, the grief. What is WandaVision about? Wanda and her grief about the loss of Vision,
and she doesn't really accept it.
Right. What is Agatha about? Agatha and really the grief of losing her child, right? Like that's kind of a big through line there.
Oh yeah.
What is Ironheart about? Riri and the grief of losing her best friend and her stepfather.
Yeah.
What is Doctor Strange about? In a lot of ways, it's his grief of losing the love of his life to somebody else.
That, and then accepting that he doesn't always have to be in control of everything.
Yes. And it brings you back to, this is where I'm going to leave it, is the big theme, the big through line of WandaVision, that big line that Vision said.
What is grief?
What is grief if not love persevering?
Yeah. And I love that line they have in this show where it's like, I forget what the quote is, but it's like, yes, you can forget, but you can forget the bad stuff, but also you're going to forget what makes life worth the living. And it's like,
right, yeah.
Oh man, oh geez, and like that entire set piece when
without the rainy days, we could never appreciate the sunny days.
And that scene where like Natalie is like showing her like, this is what you're fighting for. This is why you do what you do, and it's like, oh god, like it really hit hard.
Dude, this show ended up being so much more emotional, so much deeper than I thought. And again, I was invested for I want to see Mephisto. Let's see the dude that's been the head of all the MCU memes for the last 5 years, right? Yeah. Let's see new rock stars finally get to say Mephisto confirmed.
We do have to like wrap this segment up because this thing I want to do here in a second, but I do want to ask you about, and we may not even ever get this answer. I have a feeling Natalie's side of all this might be one that we never fully get back to, which is a damn shame. But do you think you rewrote reality for So She Never Died, or did she just poof her back and everyone else in live is like, wait, I thought you died. What are you doing here? Or is it So She Never Died at all kind of thing?
I think he just plucked her soul is what it is. I think it's a soul for a soul. I think that...
Oh, interesting.
We've heard that before.
In order to... is a soul for a soul. There is a balancing act to the universe. And maybe the big thing is going to be... maybe we travel to Mephisto's hell dimension, and you're going to have to make that sacrifice. Maybe Riri's going to want to sacrifice her own life in order for Natalie to live, but Natalie's like, hey, no, I'm not even supposed to be alive. Let's recreate the AI. You have that, that piece of me is always going to be with you. I shouldn't be here. You're the one who needs to live on and survive and carry on my legacy.
Yeah.
I think that's where that storyline ultimately goes.
Yeah, and like we talked about it last week, but like the main theme of this show, and I wanted, or I like the ultimate angle I wanted was Riri to realize with Natalie being here, she's never fully grieved. Like she's someone who never fully grieved over Natalie, and by having her like AI counterpart there, that was like a buffer of like, oh, I don't have to grieve because she's always with me and she's always here. And I do think it has to be a story of like, oh, I have to let you go. I can't. You are holding me back from living my own life, and I've been living in the past, but you have to go now, kind of thing.
Right.
And
Is this kind of thing it's unnatural,
yes.
right?